Welcome to the start of Leg 3, the classic 6,500 nautical miles into the Southern Ocean, starting here in the beautiful city of Cape Town, South Africa. Known as the Tavern of the Seas, a stopover for sailors and adventurers alike for hundreds of years. With its rich cultural heritage, Cape Town has been a picturesque and action-packed stopover for 10 of the last 12 editions of the Volvo Ocean Race. This is the leg that garners excitement, fear and trepidation in equal measure. Be under no illusions that this carnival atmosphere is just the start of a roller coaster ride. Let's take a look back at how the teams got here on Leg 2 from Lisbon.
Sending it away from Lisbon. Cape Town, here we come.
No full speed in a 50 to 55 knot wind. Drift on us now. Coming into the storm, so it's great sailing conditions. Fast and moist. The beginning of the leg is quite important. This is a critical moment.
We've been pushing quite hard, but obviously not as hard as the others.
But I was clipped on, Mum, don't worry.
I've been drinking a lot of salt water. My tongue feels like it's twice the size that it should be.
I was pretty broken this morning. I haven't had a lot of sleep. This is just the beginning, so it's only going to get worse.
Well, either I sleep soon or I die. Pretty simple. Tough it out for a couple of days and then see how we go.
Back on deck in 3 hours.
20 days is too long not to wash.
You smell like a wet Labrador.
The conditions are horrible. It's really shit.
Some of these meals I would order if I was out at a restaurant. They're that good.
For me, it's terrible.
Every day. Man your battle stations, lads. Get ready for disaster.
First off, I don't give a what, swag at the utmost, swinging like a nunchuck.
There's a very, very long way to go in this race.
It's a long leg.
Gorillas on the loose, better duck. Coming up from below like an uppercut, so they jumping up just to fuck.
I've had worse Dolphins crossings, that's for sure. Eager not to speak too soon.
Run them up.
It's like a reverse Dolphin.
For the runner-ups, okay, I'm on my way.
The doldrums. Bastante anormales.
Napa is just behind us, less than a mile away.
Vamos a escapar otra vez a coger más viento él, pero volveremos.
Bit of snakes and ladders, bit of back and forth.
We're getting screwed by clouds.
So we're anti-cloud.
Clouds are horrible. I hate them.
Anything could happen.
There was a bit of a bump. We just ran over the equator. So welcome to the Southern Hemisphere.
Lovely morning, beautiful sunrise.
They say that we're not going to have any hair on our heads or any eyebrows.
The time has come.
Where are they? Oh yeah. That's half the reason we come down here, is to try and experience a little bit different.
I love you.
Glad I'm in a club or whatever it is.
It's such a tough race and it's grueling.
your body, basically.
Even if you're coming last, it's full warm the whole time. The Classics had the best run again of the whole fleet.
It's quite hard. Bloody hard this race. And the opposition are bloody good.
It's hard to not get caught up in the emotion of winning and losing. That's sport, isn't it? If you wasn't emotional, you probably wouldn't do it.
This race is a character maker or a destroyer.
We're winning a lot.
89.
Completely.
Your emotions always on an average, you know?
Yeah. Eat, sleep, sail.
We're in a really difficult position.
The back of the bag.
Sometimes you get the elevator, sometimes you get the shaft. After all day, they're just there.
Two-boat testing.
They're still there. I want to get rid of them. Bloody scallies.
Hanging around like a bad smell, man.
We have left them behind.
Starting in Lisbon, going west.
Doesn't really matter where we a week ago is where we finished.
The three of us battling it out for the fifth spot.
So intense, doesn't give up.
And we will never give up. We are coming for you too. Right.
So it's going to be a battle today.
Hombres gone 3 degrees higher. Básicamente que sigo en el que seguimos de la etapa o no. Estás nervioso. No worries.
So the overall race results after 2 legs, Mapfre are leading with 14 points. Vestas 11th Hour Racing just 1 point behind on 13. The Dongfeng race team on 11. In 4th, it's Team Axo Nobel on 7 points. In 5th, Team Brunel on 6. In 6th place, Sung Hum Kai Scallywag on 5 points. And in 7th, it's Turn the Tide on Plastic with 2 points. Morning. We had the Dockout show, and we had all of the teams coming in and being given their final emotional goodbyes and farewells. Lovely to have you all joining us here. Make sure you tell us where you're watching from on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. We love hearing from you. There was this ceremonial handover of the flags for the next stop in Melbourne, Australia. Emotional scenes, I can tell you. Plenty of tension on the dock. The start of leg 3 begins with a triangle course around Table Bay. Southwest winds of 30 knots, a fast reach to Mark 1, upwind into Mark 2 off the Victoria and Albert waterfront, attack towards the final gate, before heading east past Table Mountain, False Bay, the 12 Apostles and the Cape of Good Hope, before diving south into the treacherous conditions of the Southern Ocean. Teams can expect over 50 knots of breeze, 7 to 11 metre seas, skirting the ice gates into the roaring 40s, before an arrival in Melbourne around Christmas. Let's hear from the skippers, sharing their inner thoughts on this classic upcoming leg.
Leg 3 is going to take us from Cape Town to Melbourne, all the way into the Southern Ocean, more than 6,000 miles.
And I think those Southern Ocean legs give an extra dimension because you're so far from land and you're sort of, as a fleet but also as a competitor, you're in a vulnerable spot, but also in a little bit of sailing paradise.
There's something unique about the Southern Ocean. You know, there's something, unique about being able to go downwind.
This next leg is really interesting because it's a double-edged sword. There's double points available, but there's only a pit stop in Melbourne. And you have another 20-day leg up to Hong Kong after that.
Now we have a very important leg ahead of us, which is a double pointer and which is risky, and we will need to assess very well the risk of going for the win or don't break the boat.
The double points are going to be huge, you know. I think for every team wants to end up on a podium with these double points, because those double points are going to play a huge role in the rest of the race you have.
I think what scares me most is a double point because it's important, and after, of course, in this leg you think more about safety and what can happen, and especially the horrible situation is a man overboard.
It's hard because yes, you want to push because you can be a hero. From being a zero, you can become a hero and equal the score quite a lot. But you risk, you know, the long term of another leg up to Hong Kong.
If you don't be in time in Melbourne, you're going to probably miss the leg from Melbourne to Hong Kong.
It is a balance, but it's a bit like the Southern Ocean anyway. Even if it's not double points, it's that balance between pushing and knowing when to reel back so that you keep the boat in one piece so you can get to the end of the leg.
I mean, it's the game now, you choose for it. I mean, if you don't love it, you shouldn't be in there. If you don't love the stress, you shouldn't be in there.
The wind, in the cold, in the waves, you know, far from anything, it's a pretty unique experience and one I look forward to feeling again.
It's going to be one of the toughest legs of the whole ocean race, but we are ready for it.
Ocean heroes, every one of them, amazing emotion. Well, the weather here in Cape Town, brought to you by Vestas. South-southeast, 18 to 25 knots. There's going to be plenty on. It's lovely and warm. Classic conditions for the start of this classic leg. Wonderful. I'm joined in the booth by Sally Barkow. Again, nice to have you here. The weather?
The weather looks full on today. I think we're even seeing a bit more of an acceleration than we're showing in the numbers there. So the teams are getting really fired up.
Here we go with live pictures now, and everyone with mainsails up, some with jibs up. What's going to be the sail call today, do you think, Sally, in this breeze?
I think if we see it pick up a little bit more, we're going to see these teams take this triangle with a really conservative mode. You know, for sure they're on their J2s, a furling head sail, you know, something they can control. Looks like all full mains at the moment. If it picks up any more, I wouldn't be surprised with a reef just to get around this course.
So the J2 up there on Brunel?
Yep, that's the J2 up there on Brunel. Like I said, it's just a step back from the head sail. It's not a hanked-on sail, so if they need to get rid of it, it's an easy furl, easy to control. 2 minutes to go on our Omega start line. The start line there, the white marker between the committee boat and the pin end of the line, just bottom of screen. Boats now just heading off towards the right-hand side. What a beautiful picture, look at that. Cape Town, Table Mountain, at Devil's Peak on the left-hand side. And I tell you, yesterday it was seriously windy. We had 60 knots down here and it was blowing the labels off the wine bottles in Stellenbosch. That's for sure. Didn't stop everyone enjoying a little tipple though. 1 minute 25 to go. And what's happening here, Sally? So the boats are just setting up. We have kind of a unique reaching start today, so they're going to be coming flying in full speed at a really powerful angle. So right now they're just jockeying for position, and where they're setting up, windward to leeward, up, you know, down and up from the screen is kind of where they're going to set up for that first mark.
So final approaches now with 1 minute and 4 seconds. Oh. 1 minute now. Set your watches. We'll go down to Bicey for a real quick summary. What's it like down there, Nick Bice?
Oh, classic Cape Town conditions here. Got a beautiful southeaster, 25 knots, almost at start time here, and this is going to be good. Hold on to your hats.
Okay,
no doubt
40
about
seconds to go. Down to leeward, it's Vestas, 11th Hour Racing. Just to windward of them, Matt Frey, a little behind by a boat length. The Dongfeng race team then Turn the Tide on Plastic. Axo Nobel got the power down, going fast. 20 seconds to go. 26 seconds to go. Brunel coming down, as are Sun Hun Kai Scallywag. Acceleration, are they just a little bit early? 17 seconds. Here goes the countdown. This is it. The leg. Every round-the-world sailor wants to do the Southern Ocean, 6,500 nautical miles of treacherous sea. Next stop, Melbourne, Australia. There's the gun. Brunel just leading over Vestas 11th Hour Racing. Matt Frey right in the mix. Dongfeng just a half a boat length behind. Absolutely powering down towards the first mark. It's a reach on this first leg. Beautiful scenes. All 7 boats right there. Let's go down to Nick Bice. Update, Nick.
Oh, they're shooting. They're coming right down at us now, probably doing 20 odd knots or so. And this, I mean, you don't get any better sailing conditions than this. It's absolutely fantastic.
There we go, pictures from Nick Bice's boat right there as they come straight towards them. Look at that, these thoroughbred racehorses champing at the bit, leaning on it and going fast. 20+ knots. Brunel looking very nicely just ahead of Vestas 11th Hour Racing. Mapfre just getting squeezed a little bit. Now the wind is coming from around the area behind the screen there at Table Mountain, and that means that Brunel will just be giving a little bit of dirty air to Mapfre. But Sally, not on board with Mapfre. Let's listen in. Okay, well, that is the crew just talking to the helmsman. They're trimming the sails as best they possibly can for maximum speed. And Brunel, look at that, they've got a real run on that right there. A little stall out from Vestas, is that, Sally?
Yeah, you saw that big kind of rooster tail coming off the stern there, whether they caught something on the rudder or they just, you know, too much heel makes those rudders stall out quite quickly.
Yeah, they had to ease the mainsail, and that slowed the boat down, reduced power a little bit, right?
Yep, reduced power, and now they're, you know, now they might be getting a little bit of that bad air from Brunel, as you were saying, and they're going to have to be fighting off Mapfre by not sailing maybe as low as they want to.
Inch for inch, millimetre for millimetre as they come down towards this first mark. A very fast leg, a triangle course around Table Bay, allowing us to enjoy the majesty of these boats, the incredible scenery around Cape Town. On board Dongfeng, let's listen in. The voice of... Is that Caroline or Maria?
That sounded like Caroline just talking about the front sail trim there. Looks like they have some gear changes there, a little bit behind the pace or off that start, so they have to kind of weave through the bad air of the other boats.
Dongfeng race team now putting Vestas 11th Hour Racing under a little bit of pressure, and that stall out from Vestas 11th Hour Racing just put them back by a couple of boat lengths. Team Brunel and Mapfre currently leading the fleet. There's Mapfre in second, just to the left of them. There you can see Turn the Tide of Plastic. There's Team Brunel leading now downwind, and Sun Hung Kai Scallywag in the middle just having a little stall out. But look at that, the breeze is 25 knots, and those of you of a nautical bent say 155 degrees wind direction from the southeast sort of thing, southeast. All clear at the start, so there are no problems there. And really with these legs where you start on such a long and dangerous journey, pushing right at this early stage, not mission critical.
Not critical at all. You know, most of these teams are thinking about how we just get off this line cleanly with an easy setup, get the boat around this triangle, and then around the corner.
Brunel look like they're trying to defend their position against Mapfre right now, just a click faster, and Brunel are trying to keep them up, and that's what's called a luff. And they don't want them to crawl over them there.
They don't want them to crawl over them, and we saw that in the import race. Brunel did not like, you know, Hong Kong Scallywag trying to roll over the top, and as Mapfre's a little bit faster here, they're going to have to defend or let them roll, and I might see a little defending here from Brunel.
Why a Mapfre just a click quicker here?
I don't know. I mean, for me, it's probably down to the main trim setup and the twist. Keep the balance in the boat. You see Mapfre consistently being just a really steady heel angle, and all the other boats, it's subtle, but they're still going up and down on heel, which is not as locked in as we say, and you know, Mapfre has that mode.
So Brunel have defended, now they're coming back down towards the perfect line into the next mark. And the boat to windward, for those of you new to sailing, has to keep clear, and that's why Brunel were in the advantage position and Mapfre were struggling to go above them. For the on-the-water perspective from a man who's done this race before, Nick Bice.
Yeah, what we're seeing here, Brunel's done quite nicely here, but the whole fleet are actually above the ley line by quite a bit, it looks like. So they'll be putting their bow down in a minute and really come flying into this bottom mark.
Okay, Nick, you've been out here before. Just tell us a bit about the emotion, the feelings that go on board before you leave for such a classic leg.
Oh, it would have been tough being one of these sailors. The emotions, and especially what's actually coming up. They're going to have a pretty uncomfortable night tonight, and they're going to be very wet. It's going to get very cold. They're going to sail into some lighter air in 24 hours or so, and then get really walloped by a massive depression that's coming through the Southern Ocean as we speak.
And Nick just talked to us about the pass. Mapfre just sneaking over the top of Team Brunel. Any change in their trim? What is giving Mapfre that tiny little bit of extra speed?
I think they've just playing the gusts a little bit better. I mean, they have a fantastic mode of sailing, as does Bauer on Brunel, of course, and that's probably why they've jumped out on the rest of the fleet. But now we're coming down. They've got their bows down coming into these marks.
Okay, the bottom mark, and it's a right-hand turn and then upwind towards the shoreline of Table Bay. I think Mapfre are just going to get the inside. So the next little rules bit here, the overlap rule at this mark. Sally, talk us through it.
Yep, overlap into the zone means you basically get to turn the mark at your free will, and it looks like maybe Dongfeng is clear ahead in the zone, so they're going to be able to get around this mark first, followed by Mapfre inside Brunel.
Dongfeng done a super job on this first leg, sneaking underneath the whole fleet to lead around the first mark. Second in around the first mark is Mapfre, closely followed by Team Brunel. Third around the mark, it's Team Brunel, only half a boat length behind Mapfre. And in fourth, it's Vestas 11th Hour Racing around the first mark here in beautiful Table Bay. About a boat length behind, Sun Hun Kai Scallywag come around in fifth. In sixth, again, very close, Axo Nobel, and just behind them, Turn the Tide on Plastic. Turn the Tide on Plastic in sixth, Axo Nobel in fifth. Turn the Tide on Plastic in seventh, Axo Nobel in sixth, apologies, as they all wind on the sails for this upwind leg. Now it looks like it's a long port drag, they haven't yet tacked. Dongfeng leading the fleet in towards the bay at that's Table View right there on the other side of Table Bay. Turn the Tide on Plastic first to tack away, then Axo Nobel also tacking away. Beautiful, you can see the setup of the mainsails. These are like giant wings in the air, and they've got to trim those sails as best they can to get maximum speed. Sally, tell us what you see.
That's right. I mean, I really see that from here, Mapfre has just a really solid lead jangle compared to Brunel, where they're much more open and twisted, and you're kind of seeing that in the height difference on the boats. Now they're going upwind. They want to take the shortest track to a mark over here on the right, and the more upwind they can go, the quicker they're going to get there.
Remember, if you've got any questions for maybe the non-sailors or even the sailors alike, you can pop them on the Facebook feed. We'll try and get you some comments and answer some of your questions with our experts here in the commentary team. Sally Barkow was the helmswoman on Team SCA in the last edition of the Volvo Ocean Race, and Nick Bice, who has sailed 3 Volvo Ocean races in the past. He's down on the water. Nick, tell us what you see.
Yeah, we're going to see a little procession here for the next few minutes, I think, and the teams will head out to the left-hand side on this work, where I'd expect there's probably a little bit more breeze, because it's out of the wind shelter of Table Mountain. But they're still going to be quite conservative. I mean, they're not going to win this leg in the first hour, but they can definitely lose it.
Right, this is very different from an import race. The boats are packed for a trip all the way to Melbourne. And remember, Nick, you can't take the boats out. You'll know this better than anybody because you're in charge of this part of the job, but you can't take the boats out in Melbourne. You can't crane them out. So what challenges does that pose for the teams and the crew?
I mean, it's another long leg from Melbourne to Hong Kong, and without a full maintenance happening in Melbourne, they're going to have to be quite conservative, and they have all the spare tools on board, all the spares on board that they can work on the boat in Melbourne. And we're only allowing 2 of the shore crew to actually work on the boats in Melbourne to get them into great shape, ready to go to Hong Kong.
Yeah, wonderful. So those are some of the challenges that the teams can expect. And it's just a special moment here leaving Cape Town. Sally, we can see the keel there on the right-hand side of Mapfre, different from traditional boats, the keel actually swings from left to right.
That's correct. So we call that canting, a canting keel. It's on a hydraulic system, so as they're going to, whenever they need more riding moment, that keel can cant out to windward there to a maximum of 40 degrees. And it's pretty much matching. You see the crew there, Sophie and the team, just sitting on the rail, and it's when you cant the keel out, it's adding more riding moment, just like putting more crew on the rail.
And that's some incredible engineering. That bulb weighs 5 tons. The total boat weight only about 12.5 tons. So more than 30% of the boat weight is in that bulb. It's attached pretty strongly, I assume.
Yeah, there's a few bolts down there. Hopefully they're nice and tight by Nick and his team. But yeah, that's the whole point of these boats, is that they are extremely high performance, you know, carbon fiber machines. And so they need that weight down below to keep them stable and keep them going, you know, in a solid direction.
We've got a split in the fleet now. The leaders are heading towards the left-hand side, towards the bay at table view. Dongfeng race team leading. Vestas 11th Hour Racing in 4th right now, and they are also continuing with this starboard tack all the way up. Just seem to be luffing the sails a little bit there. Tell us what that is.
Yeah, so they're trying to find the balance in the boat there. Too much wind. They can carry too much wind in the sail, and the boat will heel up. We saw a little stall out on the powerful reach that happened there with Vestas and dropped them back. So they'll be moving, you know, the sails back and forth.
Chuni, interesting. He's helming this time.
Yeah, that's quite a big change up. Normally we have Charlie on the helm there, and Chuni, a man of experience in the race, huh?
Yeah, he is, absolutely. He is extremely experienced, and we're just looking here at Tom Johnson there. And Sam Greenfield just to his right, he's the onboard reporter, very experienced. He's did the last race as well as one of the onboard reporters. What's he doing there, setting up that winch?
Yeah, so Tom's just setting up for the tack, really. So he's loaded the winch, put it in the self-tailer, put the button down, so they'll tack into first gear. And yeah, Simon Fisher there with the navigation. He's probably just calling the tack into the ley line to this next mark.
Right, he's not playing Candy Crush right there.
No, no Pac-Man on those machines.
Simon Fisher has done an amazing job, and this team really has performed extremely well. They're currently 2nd overall in the rankings to Mapfre. 3rd is the Dongfeng race team, but the Dongfeng race team have been showing their mettle. They won the import race. They put a lot of pressure on Vestas 11th Hour Racing and were able to force them into a mistake in the import race. That's significant. But let's go down to the water for an update from Nick Bice.
Yeah, we can Axo Nobel and Turn the Tide on Plastics look pretty nice out on the right-hand side of this course, and they're probably sailing in a flat water also. So I wouldn't be surprised that they'll take a little chunk out of those teams that are leading. What I've also noticed is Sung Hong Kai Scallywag actually have their fractional zero already pre-set up, getting prepared for this final reach down through a start-finish line. And it looks as though most the other boats are going to be doing that using that same strategy also.
Wonderful, thank you, Nick, and great to get all of your comments from all around the world, from Ekaterinburg in Russia to Dunedin in New Zealand. We hear all your comments, and it's wonderful. There's Conrad Frost giving everyone a wave. He's the onboard reporter for Sung Hong Kai Scallywag. He looks very relaxed. There we go. This is the split of the fleet. Axo Nobel on the right-hand side. Team Brunel are in the middle, and then Turn the Tide on Plastic just next to Axo Nobel. They're just recreating that very close racing that they had all the way down from the equator down here to Cape Town, when Axo Nobel, Turn the Tide on Plastic and Sung Hong Kai Scallywag were within lengths of each other. But while we get into this, Sally, you've sailed in the Southern Ocean before. You've sailed in some pretty windy conditions on Team SCA. You know what the goodbyes are like. Just talk to us about the emotions that you're feeling and what the sailors are feeling as they've left here.
Yeah, I mean, having been there before, you feel it when you see these boats leave the dock. It's a true pull of emotions. You know, there's this excitement that this is what they live for, this is what they're out there to do, and then it's the anticipation, the nerves that get involved, because you just don't know exactly what you're in for. You don't know what can go wrong. You want to be safe, but you also need to push the boat really hard. So there's this tear back and forth, and but that is really it's a hard balance. But that's exactly what every one of these sailors are here for.
Okay, we've got about 23 to 26 knots of wind speed they're calling, with a true wind direction of 170 to 180 degrees, so basically from the south. And that means a little shifty here in Table Bay.
Yeah, so we might see a little mix-up here. We'll have to maybe see what Nick says, but I think because the breeze is coming, funneling around this, big Table Mountain, it's providing a little bit unstable winds.
Okay, Nick Bice, we're seeing pictures of Team Brunel going upwind on port, but there are a couple of boats coming from the right-hand side. Which side of the racecourse looks like it's benefited here, Nick?
I think the left is still paid. It looks as though Brunel's still going to cross in front of Axel Nobel and turn the tide on plastics. And Dongfeng is looking very nice out there to the left. They look to be on the ley line also, so and probably just a few minutes away from this final turning mark.
And Nick, any light spots in the breeze that you can see further down the racetrack, or is it just building from here?
Just classic Cape Town conditions. It's when the sou'easter's in, she's in, and it makes for fantastic sailing. Sunny and windy, that's the forecast in Cape Town.
Well, Nick, we're being told that there's a little bit of light out underneath Signal Hill, which is quite a significant land mass. Do you think that's going to be a problem as we go forwards? Okay, no Nick right there. Okay, go Nick.
Yeah, definitely from the reach down from the turning mark to the start finish, they'll still have plenty of breeze, and then they'll start falling into the wind shadow of Signal Hill, Lions Head and Table Mountain.
There we go, Brunel tacking, calling starboard on the helicopter. A helicopter gets out of the way. Lovely pictures of Turn the Tide on Plastic now. They've got all their crew on the windward rail. D. Kafari is helming, and they look good. They're on board. Okay, this is the group coming in from the left-hand side from table view right there, and it is Dongfeng Race Team. Look, they've got a big puff there. They've had to ease their mainsail out. They've gone a little bit upright. Just behind them is Mapfre, and then Vestas 11th Hour Racing on board with Dongfeng. Let's see if we can hear what's going on board. Caroline Brewer in the middle. Caroline did her first Volvo in 2001-2 on Amma Sports 2, and then sailed with Sally here on Team SCA. Also been to the Olympics a few times. Yeah, it's going to be pretty tight. I think Dongfeng are just a click ahead of Team Brunel, who are coming in from the right-hand side. Let's go down to Nick Bice. Nick, that right, but perhaps coming good in the end.
Yeah, the mighty Dongfeng just about to round the mark now. But what's happened actually, the boats out to the right here look as though they've taken a good chunk out of Sung Hong Kai Scallywag. What will be close though, Team Brunel, Vestas, 11th Hour and Mapfre. Yeah, keep your eyes peeled on this one.
Yeah, here goes Dongfeng. They've just got a fairly simple bearaway now, and the other boats you can see just underneath the boom there, top right screen. It's a great picture of those boats coming in on starboard. Here come Mapfre. They're coming into this mark on port, and the other boats are... The Brunel are coming in on starboard, so anybody else now coming in is going to have to avoid Team Brunel. As Mapfre round the top mark in second. Brunel round the top mark in third. Vestas 11th Hour Racing over ley line, so no problem there with port starboards as Vestas 11th Hour Racing go round in fourth. In fifth, it's Turn the Tide on Plastic, who've gained a couple of boats on this upwind. Nice sailing. In sixth, tacking around the top mark, it's Axo Nobel. All the boats still very close to each other, only a minute between the lot of them. And in seventh, it's Sung Hong Kai Scallywag on port, coming around the top mark. That fractional zero that Sally was talking about earlier, ready to go. They're going to unfurl it right now. Maybe a bit tight on this leg towards the final gate, the start gate, as they head off.
Yeah, I mean, they must have thought that they were going to have it hoisted for that whole, first two legs here. But they're going to have to reassess how tight it is. Obviously, they're looking to gain a bit, so maybe they're going to push here before they actually turn the corner and regain the group.
So Bicey, a big split on that upwind leg. Surprising that it actually turned out to be pretty even, a marginal gain for the right, but not much.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of right-hand shift, so that got Team AkzoNobel and turned the Titan Plastics back into it, and but more pressure out in the left. I can see Charles, he's got his foot down now on Dongfeng, and Matt Frey, they're just hoisting, looks like the masthead zero. So it's going to be interesting to see what these tactics are. And I think that's more based on when they do get into the lee of Signal Hill here, they'll unfurl that big masthead zero, and just to try and utilise that little bit of less breeze.
Well, a wonderful spectator fleet out here. We've had great crowds in the V&A waterfront for the last few days. It's been a spectacular stopover. Sport abounds today in Cape Town with the rugby sevens all day today as well. We had a lot of rugby shirts down, and sportsman South Africans have had to get their diary out and schedule everything very particularly today. They all came down to the V&A waterfront to watch the boats leave and enjoy the first of this before getting up to the Bird's Nest Stadium to go and watch some of that rugby sevens. Here we go, Matt Frey, Sally.
Yeah, it looks like they're just deployed. You know, Nick was saying it was a masthead, but I'm not sure if it's the J0 or the masthead there.
Swing it around as Dongfeng, there we go, masthead. It's the masthead, it looks like, Sally. Masthead 0, they got the big gear out.
Yeah, I'm not so confident in that. I think yeah, maybe, but it's pretty breezy for that.
What's the alternative? That could be the J1?
It could be the J0. Yeah,
J0.
Just, it's, you know, a heck of a lot smaller, but we'll add a bit more than the J2.
So that's the J0, which is a new sail for this edition. North Sails providing the sails for all the boats. Nick Bice, tell us about that.
Yeah, I'll just confirm that it is the J0 for Matt Frey. Dongfeng have got theirs hoisted also, yet to deploy. But I tell you what, Matt Frey's coming down with some serious pace here. So I wouldn't be surprised. They might even sneak him below these guys, below Dongfeng. This is what it's all about.
Well, heading into the Southern Ocean, this is the leg that all the sailors love, and from what we've heard from all of them, it is absolutely miserable, sometimes terrifying, but those are the bits you always forget, Sally, and the bits you remember, what are they?
Well, you can forget the horrible ones, but in the mix, all of these horrible, tough, really hard moments are these just amazing times that you get to race. And right here, flat water ripping out of Cape Town, the anticipation of what's coming ahead, the tight, close race maneuvers, that's what you remember and that's what you love.
On board Dongfeng. Sounds like Marie Rioux and Carolyn Brewer basically running that show.
Yeah, they are taking the lead on all the trim of the head sails there, which is really great to see.
Yeah, this is a new format for the Volvo Ocean Race with women on every one of the boats, and it's just a little tweak to the rule change, and it's been really wonderful to have them all on board, and some of them, all of them, so accomplished. We've got gold medal winners of previous races from your team on SCA from the last edition. Lovely pictures of Matt Frey, and we've got a weather forecast in 2 or 3 days' time of up to 50 knots of breeze, and Anderson Reggio, when he gives me his traditional pre-race briefing yesterday afternoon, said perhaps 7 to 11 meter seas. Are you kidding me?
Solid. That's going to be solid. Yeah, that'll be something the teams are going to be making big decisions about. Do they go right into that? It's probably not much faster than if they find a way to skirt around the outside.
11 meters top to tail on a wave. You get some surfing down that. I mean, that's big as a house.
Yeah, you sure do.
Three-story house. Okay. Here we go at the leaving gate from Table Bay in Cape Town. Dongfeng and Matt Frey with maybe a little premonition of what's to come are neck and neck. Different setups on both boats. Dongfeng lead by a hair over Matt Frey. Matt Frey in slightly dirty air now. They've got a better setup though right now, Sally.
Much better setup. They really called that J0 deploy, but they're a little bit stuck in the batter of Dongfeng, and I think you're just going to see Dongfeng also deploy the J0 and match their setup.
So these two teams, Matt Frey and, well, actually we've got pictures here of Vestas 11th Hour Racing. Let's go with them and this beautiful backdrop. Team Brunel, it's sort of this is a must-win leg for Team Brunel. They haven't performed as well as they could, as admitted by Carl Langford in this morning's Dockout show, and he said this is an important one for them. Double points.
This is super important. This is their chance to get right back into the mix of the top points of the race, and I thought, you know, we saw them do some really good things at the end of the last leg where they were pushing hard, really close to being on the podium, and they will be gunning for this one.
And Vestas 11th Hour Racing just behind them, they've been a real performer. They've been one of the standout successes of this, and for them this is about keeping right in the mix on the podium, right?
That's right, you know, and I think you see some really great leadership with Mark and Charlie, and using everybody around them and developing their team really strong. I think they're going to have a really strong performance through the Southern Ocean.
And when you say using the people around them, some of the experienced folks on board.
Yeah, I mean, you have Simon Fisher, you have Tony Mutter. I think they're just really, they have that experience that everybody wants to pay for. And if you can use that in a really strong way to guide the whole team and become one big unit through all these tough moments, then it's gonna be great.
Simon Fisher won the last edition of the Volvo Ocean Race with Ian Walker on Abu Dhabi Ocean Racing. And we can see now Akzo Nobel, who had a great result, podium finish in the import race. It seems like their team is on the up and up.
They sure are. You know, I think they also need to keep improving on their strengths, and each leg, each moment, they're learning their strengths, and they have to just capitalize on those and highlight their mistakes to themselves, so that's something they can turn into a strength.
Well, Matt Frey have just squeezed ahead of the Dongfeng race team. Brilliant pictures of these boats just charging away down towards Cape Agulhas. It's the southernmost point of Africa, on board with Dongfeng. Okay, well, this race is all about the Southern Ocean. It's cold, it's wet, it's grey, and it is windy and wavy. This is where the sailors really earn their stripes, and this is something that you can go home with, and you'll never forget it when you're sitting in the nursing home. You can retell the stories, right?
Yeah, these moments will stick with these sailors forever, as it has in the past for every sailor who's been down south. And I think it's really nice to see that the route of this race is proving right to put everybody right back into the shuffle of the Southern Ocean.
There's the Bird's Nest Stadium there. Lovely pictures. Brunel have unrolled their...
That's the masthead zero, so that's quite a big call there.
Gone for the big gear.
Gone for the big gear. Yeah, that's all the way at the mast. And I think maybe they're anticipating what Nick said, this big lull behind, you know, Signal Hill. But, you know, you can tell that it's not drawing all the way, so it's already a much more powerful sail than what they need.
Okay, and Dee Kafari, we're right with them now on Turn the Tide on Plastic. She has got some leadership duties. More than half of their crew have never been into the Southern Ocean. We heard from them. They were nervous, excited, but a big job for Dee and her team.
A huge job for her. It's something that she's up for. I know that, and she has some really strong, also some strong leadership skills where she's bringing everybody together, building confidence as they go, not overstepping their abilities, but just ticking away. And I think, you know, to me, that import race the other day when they really, you know, came in a solid fifth, beating 2 boats, and now just picking up a few boats on this turn is a very different team than we saw at the beginning of this race.
She's always very upbeat. She seems to have that happy way about her.
She sure does. She has some really positive energy flowing through her all the time. So she's a pleasure to be offshore with. A really solid sailor, and you know, I think as a young team, you probably couldn't pick many other strong leaders to really take that young team through the ropes.
So Matt Frev just snuck ahead of the Dongfeng race team, but for those guys, you know, they had a really good race in the last edition. They didn't quite finish as high as they wanted to, but they've come back with this edition with full sponsor, full team, and the best team that they could come up with. And they're right there in 3rd overall, but they're ready to pounce.
I think they are ready to pounce, and they have a lot of strengths. You know, I think that's what all these teams are trying to define. What are their strengths versus weaknesses? And we've seen Dongfeng lead out of the last 2 leg starts, and then have 1 or 2 tiny little hiccups that actually cost them some distance. But then we have seen some massive strength in their speed, and they'll be relying on this once they get through this transition zone back into the big ocean.
Beautiful picture from Signal Hill, and there's a very light air just underneath Signal Hill, which we saw in the previous pictures atop the screen. Robben Island, famously, where Nelson Mandela was incarcerated for 18 of his 26 years. And that is known as Robben Island, which is Seal Island from Dutch. Look at that kite surfer right in the middle of those pictures. And Brunel may have made a decent decision here with their Mondrian branded Code Zero there, and in this light spot that may be good for them, but if they get a big puff like that, maybe not so good.
Maybe not so good. You know, if they can have a nice peel here to the next sail, they have a bit more work to do. When you put up something more powerful, it can pay off in these one moments, and then it might be hindering, you know, when the breeze picks up. But good call right now as they're gaining boat lengths right back up to this top pack.
And for Sung Hoon Kai Scallywag and David Witt, they're in 6th place overall, and they're heading to Australia and then Hong Kong. Their two home ports. What have they got to do in this race?
You know, they admittedly all the time say they're new to this race. They're new to these boats. They have a team that's sailed a lot of different dynamic parts, you know, in actual sailing. But you know, compared to the Volvo Ocean Race, they have a lot to learn. And I think they just need to build on their experience, keep ticking on the boxes, and you know, really stick together, because I think they're not so far off the pace.
Turn the Tide on Plastic, as we talked about earlier with Dee. Great team, but also not only is she doing leadership, but she's doing science. And that team have a scientific mechanism on board the boat that weighs 40 kilograms. None of the other boats have it. They are taking a very small hit, but a hit nonetheless, to collect samples of the ocean, of the water, where nobody else has ever been to before, and those samples get processed to see how many microparticles of plastic are in the ocean at different points all around the world, and it is bringing back some amazing data for some serious scientists as the cormorants just leave, get blown away by Turn the Tide on Plastic right there. And that really is very significant and world-changing data. Some of the plastic in the oceans is becoming a very hot-button issue and a major problem. We don't need to save the planet, we need to save the humans. Well, Akzo Nobel just allured. They've got their masthead zero up as well.
That's right, and you know, that's the difference. I mean, if it's too much power, you might be able to slipping back in the fleet, but maybe as they get into this transition zone, they're going to be able to power forward just like Brunel did.
There we go, and Vestas 11th Hour Racing have gone for the conservative route. That looks like the J0, right?
That's right, that's the J0, and looks like the fractional on the Scallywags there, and
Scallywag will be able to catch them up right there. And this is in stark contrast to the start of the last race in Lisbon, where Vestas 11th Hour Racing had the big gear up. This time they've gone a little more conservative.
That's right. Like we said, always searching for that balance. But I think they're probably way more focused on the turn here after Signal Hill, and it'll be interesting to see how the different sail, you know, choices affect this next move.
Matt Frey have really done a good job of getting through this light spot here in Signal Bay towards Camps Bay, and then False Bay as they go south down towards Cape Horn, and then Agulhas Point, which is the southernmost point of Africa. Really is incredible, the emotion, the feelings on board. This morning's dock out really was filled with a few teary eyes, everyone trying to keep strong, and the lower lips trembling a little. And it's one of those moments where your competitor is also your friend.
Yeah, it's a place where you know, as soon as they get a couple days offshore here, you're relying so much on the boats around you. If something is you know, hopefully not, but if something's going wrong, and that's also this a dynamic of this race that makes it quite inclusive and an effort for everybody to finish.
Right, all the different teams, and there's a point in the Southern Ocean leg where they get further away from land than the International Space Station is. They're closer to the International Space Station than they are to any other point in land. It's called the Nemo Point, right?
Yep, I believe so.
On board with Dee Caffari, we're still getting pictures here. This is wonderful to get these live shots.
It's quite nice to see, like, they're just being quite patient through these lulls instead of rushing around trying to put up a bigger sail or, you know, really going crazy on things. It might just be a moment here where they just need to get through these zones and then lock it in the really strong breeze.
Look at that, Matt Frey just managed to sneak through that light spot underneath Signal Hill, and they've taken out a pretty decent lead right here. Dongfeng Race Team and Brunel are not so good. They're just getting some updates from the tracker. Our amazing technology of getting these live pictures from both on the boats and here in Marsat do a super job of their internet connection, and they bring us live pictures from the boats all around the world. It's incredible from the Southern Ocean. Okay, well, let's look in a little more detail towards the Southern Ocean about where these boats are going. Here we go down towards Cape Town, all the way to the south of Africa. And these are the depressions that accumulate on the Southern Ocean. There's not a lot of land to slow them down, and after about 3 days there is a very big depression that the boats will see, and they are talking about 40 to 50 knots of breeze and 10-meter seas. Let's take a look from some of the legends of the sport.
Southern Ocean, without a doubt, is very, very cold. Of course, there's no one around at all, just you there, no one to watch you doing it, and it goes on for hour after hour. So that's exactly what this race is all about. It's endurance.
Okay, well, with some final comments from Sally, we just looking at the boats in that light air spot. Final comments, Sally.
Final comments, you know, I wish these teams the best of luck out there, and they are going to have a great ride on this leg. Yeah, I mean, we're going to follow closely.
Yeah, safe sailing to them all, and I tell you, it's unforgiving and treacherous conditions of the Southern Ocean. It's cold, wet and grey, mountainous seas, and very, very windy. 6,500 nautical miles to Melbourne. Each of them will be very hard fought. Days from civilization and rescue. Teams rely on each other if anything goes wrong. A unique situation where your competitor can become your savior in an instant. Amazing. Okay, well, we'll go to how to follow, and remember, the action is all over Facebook. Thank you all for your comments. Like, share, and join the conversation on Instagram at Volvo Ocean Race, and on Twitter in more depth also at Volvo Ocean Race. Download the app, and at Race Experts we've got Niall Best and Conrad Coleman in Volvo HQ in Alicante, and they're going to be bringing you the daily show, the quick fix in the morning, and then a longer show in the afternoon. That's HQ right there, keeping up with everybody, every moment of the action. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Danke and Tosiens from Cape Town, and a safe passage to the next stop, Melbourne, Australia.
I'm ready for action, I'm suited up. Superheroes here with a pen to be sure this ain't a bluff. Planning this is the results, the brother of success. Combine my eye with all of them to come out with my best.